AskReddit by Xavier. What are some of the most toxic or potentially dangerous ideas, beliefs that have been perpetuated by Redditors? Absolutely hating on those that deviate from the norm. Hating on people that conform to society's norms but not Reddit's norms. Hating on people trying to have fun or hobbies. We did it, Reddit. Those 4 words bring me so much annoyance and I don't know why. Witch hunts and doxing are okay if the average Reddit user doesn't like the target. Vigilante justice is cool-less. Glorification of selfishness. I get the impression a ton of people on this site have difficulty asserting themselves, or recognizing or setting their own boundaries, because Reddit is full of advice geared toward people with these problems. What these posters seem to forget is that not everyone is codependent with self-esteem through the floor. And yet anytime anyone wants to get out of something that someone else wants them to do, Reddit leaps to no is a complete sentence. Put yourself first. Don't jade in real life though. Maintaining healthy relationships requires sometimes doing things you aren't thrilled about for others' sake. Sometimes I think I'm here to feel well adjusted. Reddit has a tendency to label people toxic and encourage relationship advice that isn't great. People don't come here looking for advice, they come here for affirmation. Those people who make introversion out to be an excuse for some pretty terrible antisocial misanthropic unacceptable behavior. I don't like loud spaces and can feel overwhelmed by crowds of people. I would pay not to go to a concert. I also genuinely love the people in my life and will always make time for anyone who needs me. In my experience this is true for everyone, extroverts and introverts alike. Deleted. Worshipping celebrities. 10-year-olds don't need to receive death threats because he's never heard of a 55-year-old actor. Hey Reddit, why do you like Keanu so much? Because of how nice he is? Why don't you follow his example? Think about the subjects that you have an immense amount of knowledge about. Maybe you've spent your whole life studying it. Now think about all the times you've seen a well-written comment on Reddit with thousands of upvotes that is completely and verifiably wrong. Now think about all the subjects you know nothing about, and all the times you've learned something from a well-written comment with thousands of upvotes. I laugh about this with friends. 98% of the medical discussion I read here is at least partially incorrect, and oftentimes grossly incorrect though gets a swarm of upvotes. Despite me knowing this, everything I read about audio gear and PC topics I treat as gospel if it has a lot of upvotes. To an extent, Reddit plays a role in the growing anti-intellectualism. There seems to be a large assumption that this is a website of experts and lengthy replies must be credible. I saw a fellow Redditor describe it perfectly. You finally realize how little most Redditors know when they start talking about a topic you happen to be well researched in. I see this in 2 places primarily, topics about public education, I am a middle school teacher, and topics such as anti-vaccine. I understand Reddit hates anti-vax for good reason, but it is also stuck in the old anti-vaxxers are just stupid stereotype. Instead of educating and helping the problem, they just poke fun. This unfortunately drives more anxious parents toward anti-vax communities. A little empathy, understanding, and education would do more to combat ideologies such as anti-vaccines than anything Reddit actually does. Deleted. Love yourself before you love someone else. While the intention is good, some people take that a little bit too far. Having a disability is something to accept. This should however not mean that necessary occult surgery should not be done. Don't forget the types that try and sell you on smoking weed as a cure-all for any and all disability. Shit's insufferable. Everyone is an armchair psychologist. You post about feeling sad sometimes and inevitably someone is like that's because you have atypical depression and bipolar disorder or whatever. Or if someone is having a fairly normal relationship issue, their partner is labeled a narcissist, sociopath, or a borderline or something. Deleted. You know, I once wrote that a cat was small and cute and then a bunch of people starting commenting that I'm an idiot and that I didn't know how to spell and that I'm a disgrace to education, etc. Turns out there's an anti-subreddit to pretty much everything, and someone screenshot my comment asking for others to come to the post to harass me. One simple word got a random group of strangers to bully me in the comments. It really put into perspective what the youth are dealing with today. Thankfully I grew up before social media, so I don't blame you for not commenting because people can be so brutal. One example of this, a medical doctor posts a well-written comment about the dangers of overprescribing antibiotics. Top comment of the thread. Tons of awards. Later a second-year med student posts a similar comment. Still well written but maybe misses a few key points specifying how and why. Again, top comment of the thread. Gilded to the nines. Later a college freshman bio major writes a pretty bad summary of the situation, but it's part of the Reddit hive mind echo chamber, so anyone who bothers to correct him gets misinterpreted and downvoted. And so on until someone literally tells Emmy they read on Reddit that taking antibiotics is dangerous and will lead to a super disease that will wipe out humanity. Come on Reddit. Lol, it's just like the telephone game. You'll read comments and think, wow, these people know so much about this topic, but then a topic will come up that you have expertise in, and you'll realize that people on this site just pull answers out of their ass with confidence. Also, after enough time here you'll start to realize the average demo is on the young side and has very little life experience. Keep that in mind when you scroll through the comments. There's so much stuff that could be debunked with a simple web search. Stereotyping, in general, seems rampant. Many comments and posts seem to believe that individuals are incapable of independent thought and just reflect the race, religion, gender, ethnicity, group, nationality, political party, subreddit culture they belong to. People are varied even within ideologies. Argue points and issues, not identities. The general belief that how an idea is presented is more important than what is being said. I can't count the number of times I've seen bullshit conjecture with clean grammar get upvoted past someone who actually knows what the fuck they are talking about from direct experience but can't spell for shite. That's not a Reddit thing, that's a life thing. The Boston Marathon bomber. Reddit started a whole shitstorm by identifying a missing person as one of the bombers. Sunil Tripathi, https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Sunil_Tripathi () was the innocent person that got mistaken for one of the bombers. There was a lot of fallout and users tracking down family members, friends and even high-profile news people sending out messages that it could be the bomber. https://www.bbc.co.uk/news/technology-222632020. There was an episode on Newsroom about this. Well, Jeff Daniels even had a small rant about social media and Reddit in particular. Edit for anyone interested, here's the link. https://yahoo.be/pdwcdh1wmte (). Too many people unknowing assimilate into the hive mind. Like, if you start to agree with all the most upvoted posts every day, and get angry upset when someone makes a valid point against what is clearly correct, to Reddit, it's time to back away slowly. Reddit has a particularly toxic pattern where the first few votes basically decide a post's fate. Because most of the users behave like they somehow want to be on the winning side, if something is popular already they add an upvote. If something is already downvoted they add a downvote. It's why bots that either upvote or downvote posts by 5 votes work so very well on Reddit. If you are a mod and you don't agree with something you can ban them. I'm banned in RF and I've never even posted there. That people who use Reddit are somehow superior or more in the know about things than people who don't. Cringe Instagram normie stealing all our memes as the next 90 posts are all screen caps of Twitter posts or memes originating from 4chan. Failure to acknowledge any nuance or grey areas. People feel the need to go all in on one side for any issue. I think they feel they'll look weak or hurt their argument by relenting on any point. Or having a discussion on any point. Deleted. People really seem to separate Reddit from social media as if it wasn't a social media website. Not having your real name doesn't make it not social media. If your partner does anything at all that you dislike, you should dump them, take them to the police, avoid all other partners in the future, etc etc. Particularly prevalent in relationships, relationship advice, Amid Arsehole and even just AskReddit itself. It's rather appalling, and it seems to be pushed by people who have no idea what being in a relationship is actually like. It's not fucking easy basically. You want to love something and be in a completely committed relationship? Prepare to fight for it, because it is not easy. The nuclear option. Reddit Sol faithful. That so many Redditors are quick to condemn someone to death over things. For example, if someone driving does something they clearly shouldn't and cause an accident, I hope they died. If they died, good, fuck them, clean the gene pool. It never occurs to people that maybe some people just shouldn't drive, but they are otherwise just fine as people. That the optimal solution to personal relationship issues is to end it, cut contact and or leave town. Lawyer up, hit the gym. Sue your parents is pretty much our personal advice and our personal finance in a nutshell. Some people here don't think cats can have salami. Cats can have a little salami. That you can't agree to disagree. There are far too many issues, policies, beliefs and lessons that we absorb as human being. Short of the other person being rude or hateful, Redditors as a whole don't know how to accept another view contrary to theirs. I am so fucking tired of this you mad bro culture that nerds love to spout. Apparently having emotion about something important to you means you immediately lose the argument, and I notice that 9 times out of 10, the person saying you mad bro is the one raging. That and dismissing effort as being trad. I see this online and in real life. It's okay to be passionate about things. It's okay to put in effort. That whenever someone in your life isn't behaving perfectly or 100% supporting of you all the freaking time, you need to cut them out of your life because they are abusive and toxic. I'm curious how many families have been ruined by such destructive advice. Glorifying physical violence assault because someone said something disrespectful or mean to someone else. Edit, never been given an award before. Thank you to the kind person who saw it fit to do so. Hater is terrible for a similar reason. They tell people they're NTA for dramatically escalating situations just because the other person started it from ARP's perspective. That subreddit is largely a way for people to justify childish and really inappropriate behavior. That the only answer to any kind of relationship problem is to immediately break up, even if it's a problem that could easily be solved with a simple conversation between partners. That pretty much anything is an acceptable receptacle for cum. Welcome to the cum zone. Only come inside anime girls. Threatening to kill a little kid because she plays Fortnite. Didn't a sub also harass and threaten a teenage girl for beating a pro in Smash? It caused her to permanent quit playing in tournaments too. Ike. Also there was a time where a sub bullied a little kid too for saying he doesn't like PewDiePie. A bit wrong here. See the replies tied to those who corrected me. And caused him to make a public apology. Christ. The hive mentality is scary. My memory is a bit fuzzy so I may be wrong with my statements. Can't fact check them right so I apologize in advance if I'm wrong. That everything works like a dichotomy. The amount of needless contempt that arises just because of an incessant need to turn issues into right vs left or the likes is stupid. I see people back up harmful beliefs just because it's what the majority of their opposition opposes. I'm not saying that I'm above any form of tribalism or that certain issues aren't more attributed to one side than the other, but people just need to stop prioritizing political identity over the argument at hand. It's not even political, it's everything. There is no room for discussion here, only right vs wrong arguments, and everyone takes replies to their comments that aren't resounding agreement as direct attacks. The upvote downvote system that actually hides posts beyond a certain negative threshold, and the karma system actively encourage this as well, giving the users direct power to censor things they think are wrong or disagree with regardless of what's true. It's designed to be a whoever shouts the loudest wins and must be right scenario. Reddit in and of itself is one of the most toxic forms of social media. Hating an entire nation, or assuming that all its citizens are equally as bad just because a certain individual, or a specific group of people in power who belongs to that nation are jerks. It's important to remember that a government isn't necessarily its people. The most toxic thing is Reddit tries to break people apart. Especially family. I have seen way often that the first course of action, and the most popular one, are of separation. Man from wife or vice versa, or rift between parent-child. My argument is not that this is not necessary sometimes. But in most cases I don't think this should be first course of action. A kind of maturity and level-headedness is lost on most Redditors. And this is especially not helpful when the recipient of advice is some 15-year-old girl. Deleted. I find this to be true everywhere, but the idea that if someone holds a different opinion to you they are automatically stupid. Especially when it comes to politics, many topics are much more intricate than the average Joe realizes, and people are in comments getting absolutely furious instead of having reasonable discussions. Deleted. I wish I could upvote this a 100 times. Most people play the introvert card as an excuse for their horribly insufferable and rude behavior. It's like I'm an introvert. I'm not good at talking to people. So if I'm one hell of cunt and say super rude shit to you, don't take it personally. Like seriously, WTF. Talking about things they're completely uninformed about as though they're facts and subsequently misinforming thousands of people without any disclaimer of their lack of knowledge. The amount of times people correct me on topics I actually know things about with false information, only to have me downvoted and them praised for their witty and factually incorrect comeback is astonishing.